So now we have it. Eurovision 2023 is going to be held in a city that means so much to me, as you could probably tell. It's going to be held in Liverpool. Yay! I was so happy when I got the news. So, first of all, hi. It's been a hot minute. Yeah, life is crazy, as always. And on the Eurovision down season, obviously things like this get deprioritized a little, but with big news like this that has such a personal meaning to me, I had to jump on and make a video to cover what it's going to be like to have Eurovision in Liverpool, why it means so much to have Eurovision in Liverpool, and my predictions. I'm going to make some predictions about who's going to host, what the ceremony is going to be like. Yeah, so let's jump right in. So, Graham Norton announced it live on BBC TV last night that Liverpool is going to host Eurovision, and I think, obviously I am biased, but I do think that it is a great move for so many reasons. So first of all, Liverpool is a pretty large city on the northwest side of the UK. So if you know where Manchester is, it is 30 miles. Do not know what that is in kilometers. West. It is on the coast, basically. The city itself is on the River Mersey, which makes it really important, or made it really important for imports and trade, both of an ethical and non-ethical nature back in our not so distant past. It's just kind of north of Wales. So you get a lot of Welsh people who go to Liverpool to find work. Back in the 1900s, a lot of Irish people fleeing a lot of trouble, the Troubles, in fact, came to Liverpool for work. That's actually how I exist. My great-grandfather came over. Liverpool also has one of the biggest Chinatowns in the UK, with this gorgeous ornate arch. Like, it's beautiful. You're just walking around Liverpool and suddenly you're like, oh, where did this come from? It's amazing. It's beautiful, and Chinatown is so buzzing and vibrant, and I love it. And this is really the crux of why I think Liverpool was the best choice, because Liverpool is truly a melting pot of so many different cultures that have come to the city for so many different reasons and called it their home. So I already mentioned Chinatown, which is like, it's such an important part of the city centre. It's really not that far away. It's basically between the city centre and the Anglican Cathedral. The Anglican Cathedral is the big sandstone one. Again, that's why I'm here. That's what my great-grandfather and my grandfather helped build. It's gorgeous. It's home to Europe's biggest pipe organ. It is well worth a visit. The scones in the cafe are exceptional, and you see beautiful views down into Liverpool as well. You may have also seen pictures of another church. It's the Catholic Cathedral that is located basically just on the top of a giant hill. To get up there is a mission. It was finished in the 1960s, and it was built for the large Irish population that is in Liverpool. It's gorgeous, and it's so different for a Catholic cathedral. It's really modern, it's really bright, it's circular. It's incredible. So there's already so many things to do and see in Liverpool. But the fact of the matter is that Liverpool owns its multicultural history. Liverpool also owns the negative sides to its multicultural history, and it's actually the home to the National Slavery Museum, which I hear a lot of people say is one of the best and most honest representations of Britain's history in the slave trade. So I think it's really important when we look at the context of Eurovision 2023 that the city they chose knows how to own multiculturalism. Because Eurovision 2023 isn't technically Eurovision United Kingdom, even though it's going to be there. It's all about Ukraine. Ukraine won it, and in any other circumstance would be owning this year. Ukraine need to be represented really strongly in the show. And it has to be a collaboration. And I think Liverpool is the best place to do that in, because the people who are going to be running the show they come from this background of you know, round the corner is, okay, here's Chinatown. And then to get there, you have to walk past the big Irish cathedral to get to the Anglican cathedral. And then you have all these different parts of Liverpool that are just so different, and yet they belong. That's kind of the easiest way I can explain it. Liverpool is a special place. Liverpool is an amazing place. Liverpool is well connected. So if you're thinking of going, I'm going to give you some tips right now. Liverpool Airport is not that well connected from outside of the UK, I will say. It's getting better. The Liverpool Central Station, Lime Street, is huge and incredibly well connected. You could almost call it a hub for connecting the north and south. You have Manchester Airport that isn't that far away, which is the second biggest hub for international flights in the UK. It's exceptionally well connected. So if you can't get into Liverpool, you can get to Manchester. And as I said earlier, it's 30 miles away. It's like half an hour on a train, if that. Whether you're coming from far away or a bit closer, it's super straightforward to get there. One thing I will say about Liverpool is that it's constantly evolving, and that is a good thing. Liverpool was the European capital of culture not that long ago, and as part of that there was a huge influx of interest and funding. And with that funding, Liverpool transformed the city centre. It was beautiful before, but now it's exceptional. They've built the new arena, which I think is now called the M&S Bank Arena. It was the Echo Arena for the longest time, so I'm just like trying to get my head around that. They built huge new shopping centres and hotels and flats and all sorts of things. If you're looking for things to do that aren't Eurovision related, or kind of, you know, reasons to maybe extend your stay, I've already mentioned the cathedrals. Even if you're not religious, they are worth a visit. They are beautiful and really unique. Really, really unique pieces of architecture with interesting things inside. The museums, I've already mentioned one of them, the National Slave Museum, but there's also the National Maritime Museum, as well as the Walker Art Gallery and Museum. They're the three big ones that I remember, all incredibly well worth a visit. There is there's a Tate Gallery in Liverpool as well, down on the docks, the Albert Docks, and there's lots of shops and cafes and things like that. If you want to go shopping, Liverpool is exceptional, really, really recommend it. And then, of course, you can get a ferry tour on the Mersey itself. You can go across the Mersey. Nearby, there's Formby House and Gardens, Formby Beaches. It's the only place in Britain where you can actually see red squirrels, or one of the few places, I should say. So it's a really special place with so many different things to see and do. There's one big part of why I think Liverpool's the best choice that I haven't even mentioned yet. And it's the big one. It's the one that when everybody thinks of Liverpool, that's what they kind of think of. Music in Liverpool is such like a huge part of the city itself. And yes, of course, the Beatles are everywhere. Okay, I've said it now. The Beatles are everywhere. There's Beatles museums and there's just homages to the Beatles everywhere you look. Yeah, so it really, for me, the biased me, it makes it a total no-brainer. Now, I've been thinking overnight about kind of how I said the ceremony earlier, but how it is a bit like a ceremony, isn't it, really? But how the whole event is going to look. And I was thinking back to recent events in Italy, in the Netherlands, just really trying to think like, okay, when they've done Eurovision somewhere, it's been about the country more than it has been about the city. So you've had this reflection of like, this is what Italian culture is like. This is what Italian music is like. These are some of the biggest Italian stars that you may remember and things like that. They're trying to evoke this kind of nostalgia and really get people kind of like invested in, oh, I want to go to Italy if you're not in Italy. So prediction number one, I think this is going to be different. Liverpool is such a special place, but it has such a rich musical history that, ignoring everything else I've talked about, plus the football as well, that I didn't even mention, but, you know, is kind of there emblazoned on my chest. So, you know, full disclosure, I have a list here of basically lists of band and artists from Merseyside from Wikipedia. And obviously the Beatles is on there, but I keep going down and like, I'm like, I didn't know they were from Liverpool. And then I think of it, it's like, yeah, it's obvious. So some examples, Rick Astley is Scouse. I didn't know that. Pete Burns, so Dead and Alive, R.I.P. Pete Burns, but You Spin Me Right Round, they were from Liverpool. Yeah, there's just lots of random people that you're like, oh, they're from Liverpool. The big one that sticks out to me is definitely Rick Astley. I had no idea. So when you think about like what everything could look like, because they've got time in the first semi-final, the second semi-final, and the final to look at, I think there's going to be a lot drawn directly from Liverpool. I know there's like hundreds of very famous music acts in the UK. You're not going to get Adele. You're not going to get Ed Sheeran. Oh, you might get Ed Sheeran, actually. He's done Stranger Things. He's done Pokemon stuff, so he might do Eurovision. I don't know. But I don't think it's going to be about the UK as a whole. I think you're going to get a heavy influence from Liverpool, but you're also going to get the influence from Ukraine as well. So I think there's a few things that if I were a gambling woman, there is a song called You'll Never Walk Alone. And it is the song of Liverpool Football Club. It's taken from a musical called Carousel. And the lyrics are just like super poignant. When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm, there's a golden sky and the sweet silver song of the lark. It's about weathering hard times and keeping your head up. Kind of relevant. I almost I get the feeling that you can kind of I kind of know how that's gonna go. Let's be honest. It's gonna start with like kids and stuff, and then it's just gonna build to this big thing. I would say that that's probably gonna be like an opening thing to the main show. If they don't do that, they are like, what are they playing at? It has to be You'll Never Walk Alone. They can do it however they want. Other people that I think could appear, Rick Astley, obviously, because who doesn't know Never Gonna Give You Up, and he's Scouse. Like, come on, he has to be there. I do, okay, my slight left field bet is that I reckon Paul McCartney is going to turn up. He does stuff like this all the time. So if he hasn't got anything else booked on the 13th of May, he will be there. He'll probably do Hey Jude, because that's what Paul McCartney does. They could bring the Zootons out to do Valerie. That was their song before it was Amy Winehouse's song. And then you do have two connections of Liverpool in Eurovision. So there was Sonia back in 1993, where she sang Better the Devil You Know, which is a total classic. I know it from Steps, but yeah. And then... But Gemini. 10 years later, Gemini came. They tried, and they tried. Yeah, they're also from Liverpool. So whether we'd have a little bit of that, I don't know, or whether they'd focus more on recent Eurovision. Basically Sam Ryder. There's going to be a lot of Sam Ryder stuff. They'll bring Sam Ryder out for a special kind of 2 or 3 song performance. That's what they normally do. It'll be just like a new version of Spaceman, and then it'll be whatever his latest single at the time is. And they normally do that during the voting. Obviously the Ukrainian influence has to be pretty strong as well. If they don't bring out Verka Serduchka, me English nicht verstehen, let's speak dance, they're missing a trick, because people remember Verka. They might not remember where she came from, but they remember Verka Serduchka. They're like, oh, the crazy silver person that was singing and dancing. Yes, the crazy silver person that was singing and dancing is Ukrainian, Verka Serduchka, and absolutely has to be involved in this somehow. Actually, now I mention it, it's going to be Kalosh Orchestra, isn't it? It's not going to be Sam Ryder. So Sam Ryder is probably going to get involved with something else, and then it's going to be Kalosh Orchestra. Oh, I don't know. How are they going? Maybe they'll do like a combo thing. I'm not really sure, actually. That's a good thought. I need to sit with that one a little bit more. But the other thing that a few people have been talking about that hasn't been confirmed yet, but I think will be soon, is who the hell is going to host this? That is really difficult because there's so many people. So in the UK does have like a rich television history. We do have a lot of big personalities that could host it. But also, like, there's so many. Are they going to go for people for the older demographic? Are they going to go for the younger demographic? I mean, obviously it makes sense for Graham Norton to host it, but Graham Norton is the commentator. So, and he's already said that he would rather commentate than actually like host it. So I think we can rule Graham Norton out. So normally there's a trio or a quartet of hosts. Normally it's like, if you look back at Amsterdam, it was like the 3 core people, and then Queen Tutorials herself, Nikki Tutorials, was like more of the green room host. I see the BBC going more that way. So they have 3 main hosts and somebody who's more for the green room. I'm almost certain that the green room person is going to be Rylan. Just like, I can almost guarantee that. He has a lot of experience in doing this kind of thing. He loves Eurovision. I just think he's great. I love Rylan a lot. So unless he's going to be the UK's entry for the year, which would also be awesome, I think Rylan's going to be playing more of that kind of role. And then for the main trio, it's really tough because Eurovision appeals to so many different kind of groups of people. And in Britain, there are a lot of TV presenters that like I grew up with, but I'm a little older, so younger people might not have the same connection to them like I do. So the likes of like Rick Edwards, who was on Channel 4 when I was a kid. So I kind of grew up with him like on the TV. I think he would be a solid shout because he's done music stuff before. I think Greg James would be a really solid shout because he's kind of cool and down with the kids, even though he's the same age as me and would never say cool and down with the kids. I think he would be a solid shout. Maya Jama, if they really want to go to the kind of the younger generation, so to speak, I think she would be a great shout. She's a great presenter. She's very knowledgeable. I think, though, because Eurovision is such a big event, I think you need like experienced people, but also because of the way Eurovision tends to go, you need somebody with like, I hate saying this, but comedic chops. You need people who can and have done a bit of improv. Things can go wrong and do go wrong. You need somebody who's really charismatic, who communicates super clearly, because you're going to have hundreds of millions of people watching you who don't have English as a first language. So I think we're going to see like a real generational divide between who is actually picked. So I think Rylan for the green room is like a shoo-in. And then I would throw in names like Claudia Winkleman and Tess Daly, who host Strictly Come Dancing. I would throw in names like maybe... I mean, it would be so funny to see Richard Osman do it. He's got really great dry humour, but he's really well known in the UK. I think he'd do a really, really good job. You could even throw in somebody like a sports person, because we are in Liverpool. Liverpool's very famous for football. You could throw in like Jermaine Genus, who does a lot of TV presenting these days. I mean, it would be hilarious to have like Gary Lineker in there, maybe even Jake Humphrey, though I don't think he's done a lot for the BBC recently. It still would be fun to see a name like that in somebody who's more used to doing sports events, or somebody who is a comedian that is dipping their toe into some more presenting work, especially live presenting as well. I mean, I'm trying to think of the hosts in recent years. They tend to get an artist in as well. So wouldn't it be awesome if Rick Astley turned out to be a presenter? Then you would get that generational thing. So then they could have more traditional presenters and then Rick Astley, and then there could be this whole running joke about him going to Rickroll the audience, and then he doesn't, and then in the voting quiet time suddenly he starts rickrolling everybody. That would be amazing. I would love that. So yeah, I'm gonna end this video there. This has just been some of my thoughts on why I think Liverpool is the best choice. So tell us down like in the comments below, are you planning on going to Liverpool? What are your thoughts? Like, who do you think would be the best host? And are there any famous faces you think we're going to see pop up during the shows? Please hit the subscribe button if you're new here and you love a bit of Eurovision. If you don't know, my name is Becky. Myself and my partner Johannes, we make videos related to Eurovision, but also Melodifestivalen, which is the Swedish selection process for Eurovision. The submissions ended a couple weeks ago, so we know who the hosts are going to be for Mello. So now we're just waiting to see who's taking part. I think that's going to be really exciting. Have a great October. Have a great Halloween. If anything big comes up, we will be here to talk about it. And if not, we'll see you all soon. Bye.